Hello there, and you are there, and I am most definitely here.
So, what do you guys want to talk about?
Or more to the point, where do we even start? The last few weeks have had a lot of ups and downs in terms of Luke's Army. More downs for Sandra Lean, I believe, than ups. However, there is a little bit of a bonus in there for her, which I think we'll cover off today as well. Our last update looked at a couple of different things, including Sandra's big birthday bash, which I'm sure we can cover off here as well, a little bit of information about that, and the transcripts that have been released. How are they stacking up with what's been told by Sandra Lean, Scott Forbes, Corinne Mitchell, and everyone else? Well, spoilers, not very well. Let's get on with a couple of things here, and let's start with Sandra's big birthday bash. So, as many people would have known from the updates from Luke's Army, I'm sure, in the videos that I've made, Sandra was due to have a big birthday bash fundraiser where she was raising money, not for Luke, not for the case. It was fundraising. I actually don't know what the real excuse is and how we get from A to B. The reality is the money was going to Sandra, and it was just a little Brucey bonus, for want of a better description, really. The £10 a ticket was due to be held in Dalkeith at the Masonic Lodge, I believe. So that was cancelled. Sandra put out a update again saying that it was due to threats being made. The reality is the email that she showed that the sentence was perceived, thinly veiled threats. Perception and actual, the real threat, totally different thing. If someone perceives something, that doesn't mean something happened. That means they perceived it that way. But in terms of Luke's Army and people responsible, they always like to big up these words, make them seem like the victim, which really was what Sandra's kind of whole personality was over the cancelled birthday time. It was victim Sandra, and it did really play on the heartstrings in terms of the easily led in Luke's Army, in the respect that they were just want to throw money at her, no questions asked. Let's just find a way to get this woman money. I did see a couple of raffles and things that were done for Nintendo Switch, and of course that in itself is abhorrent, I think. Raising money for a convicted killer by raffling off games consoles is pretty low. People might look at that and think, it's just a fundraiser for a charity, but what is behind the charity? And really, a raffle for something like that? In reality though, the money isn't going. Some of the money might actually physically go to Luke, who knows, but the money is going to Sandra. And I do not care how many times Sandra Lean says that she is taking a step back from the financial side of things. The money's still going into her PayPal. It's going into her account. Now, whether somebody else is, looking after that account is another matter. It's questionable whether someone is. Would you have someone looking after your PayPal account, or would you look after it yourself? It may be a case of someone's keeping track of the money, but I do not believe for a second that Sandra Lean is not involved with that cash, not receiving that cash, and not enjoying the benefits of that cash. However, the party itself was cancelled, and as I say, they chucked money through other ways and means, all different things. Everybody was just desperately trying to come up with a way of getting her cash over Christmas, which I'm sure she's loving. question marks as well, and the fact that you want to play victim in terms of I can't have a birthday party with people. Have a birthday party with your family. You've got daughters, Sandra. You should be having a party with your family. Why do you have to get people to pay to come to your birthday? That's a bit strange. I could understand if you were in a band and you were playing a gig or something like that, you wanted to cover a door cost. But really, paying to go to someone's birthday, I never have and never will. I think it's a ridiculous idea, but the reality is, it's just wanted money. And these people are easily led. That I'll go on to. Not even just easily led, willfully ignorant. And that, as Scott Forbes would say, is fact. The tragedy doesn't end there in terms of the party, however. The members of Luke's Army and Sandra looked into getting a new venue, and it also was cancelled. The venue itself was the Salters Inn, which is in Woodburn in Dalkeith, just up the road from the centre of Dalkeith, I believe. And as I say, they originally, they wanted to have the replacement venue as the Salters. Now, I won't make any bones about it. I've said it on my YouTube comments as well. I actually emailed the Salters Inn asking for comment about, did they know about the coverage with the Daily Record, and with that in mind, why were they happy to have it, and give them a chance to kind of, respond and have their own say in it. Then I didn't get any word back, so I resent the email on the 28th of November, just to give them plenty of chance before I started, making any comment or doing anything online. I did not receive a reply from the second email either. However, the day after the second email that was sent, there was an update on the Luke Mitchell pages of that venue being cancelled as well. Now, there was a comment in the post itself that said, this was supposed to be a secret venue, so to speak. It was only select people that knew where it was. I hate to break it to Luke's Army, but when you guys found out, just a little bit after that, I knew. So...
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
So all jokes aside, that's the big birthday bash that was all cancelled down. But to cover that off and give an opinion on it, really, because that's what I like to do, this was all a cash grab. I've said it in the last couple of videos as well. Sandra Lean is a carny, and this was a great grift, wasn't it? With the promise of something that then falls through, but people feel obliged to not get a refund or donate more money, or there's a sob story about, I won't be able to spend my birthday with you guys, and everybody's like, oh, Sandra, have some cash. It's really seedy. It's see-through if you want to pay attention. Which brings me on to my next point, which is the willfully ignorant in Luke Mitchell's Army. Now, money is a big factor. If you're willing to pass over cash with nothing and kind of get back, you're not getting anything back for it, with the exception of someone's time. Now, that time's limited as well, because that's only got to be so many interactions, either at protests or online or anything like that. It's not like, it's not like she's prostituting herself in terms of 20 quid and I'll spend half an hour with you. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is it does then think that there's a connection there, and you're kind of, it's almost like TV evangelists, just sow your seed and so much will come. In fact, the more I think about it, it's actually really quite like an evangelist, isn't it? She's an evangelist. It's false promises about what's coming at the end, as long as you give them enough cash. I like the fact that I came to whilst I'm talking here, but yes, that's exactly what she is. She's a carny, she's an evangelist, she's a grifter, and people will defend the action as well. And that's how we get onto the willfully ignorant. So, with that in mind, what I'm going to actually have to do is show a couple of maybe, screenshots perhaps, but we'll show a couple of screenshots, but I don't want to make these people famous, so to speak. I don't even like giving these people attention online, but you know how this always works. So let's look at a couple of examples of the absolutely willfully ignorant. So thank you to the person that sent me this. Thank you to the people, everybody who sends me stuff. As always, your identity will be kept secret lest you be blocked and you won't be able to send me this stuff. But what I had seen the other day was, I won't go through this whole entire post, but there's a couple of things in here that actually kind of signal what I'm saying, and at the same time there's another element to it which kind of segues as well. It's quite a flowing video. So in this post, one of the more passionate or more vocal on social media supporters of Luke Mitchell, Ronnie, had said it seems in court transcripts Luke was seeing Jodie and this other girl at the same time right up until the murder. Now, this was on a post by one of the more definitely vocal, I'm sure I've mentioned her in videos before, Heather, one of her posts, and she had said, he was 14, Ronnie. Even if he was seeing both of them just kids, it doesn't make him a murderer. Quite true, but there is motive in there, which we can discuss later as well. We can't go through everything, but there is motive there. Let's cover that later, thanks to the court transcripts as well from Killin Mitchell's own testimony. So Ronnie had said, correct Heather, but according to Sandra Lean, it was untrue. Why did she lie? Now, did Sandra Lean lie? Let's see what Sandra Lean had to say about the relationship status of Luke and the fact that he was with more than one girl. Mitchell appeared to be very sexually active at his age. Not only was Luke in a relationship with Jodie, but he was also dating Kimberly Thompson from Kenmore in Perthshire.
Luke appeared to be very sexually active for his age. Good Lord. He was 14, going on 15. When he was asked how often he and Jodie had had sex during the relationship, he said 4 or 5. The previous relationship with Kimberly, they had a holiday romance. She did come to see him in the December to January of 2003, before he met Jodie. And that was the end of their contact. So whatever kind of relationship he was having with Kimberly after that was not sexual.
He was 14 going on 15. Regardless, to say that is not true, and the transcripts of the court case show in Killin Mitchell's own testimony that Luke Mitchell was still in a relationship with Kimberly Thomas. He was actually due to spend a whole week with her at her house not long after Jodie was murdered. So that is just a lie, and that comes from Killin Mitchell under question, admitting that he did have an extra girlfriend, a second girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, and he spent a lot of time on the phone with her. Actually, just I think the Saturday prior to Jodie being murdered, I believe it was the 28th, there was an occasion where Killin Mitchell testifies to being out what seems like on a date with a gentleman, comes home and to spend some time in the house just sitting chatting and whatnot, relaxing, and Luke is on the phone to Kimberly Thomas at the time, up until the wee hours of the morning, and on the phone for some time as well. So the whole keeping the record straight, I'm going to do a big video on your keeping a record straight, Ms. Lean, because these court transcripts are showing that your record needs to be straightened. You're playing it on the wrong speed or something, if it's vinyl. But getting back to what I was talking about, so on this post there's a couple of different people, and we won't go into details about everybody because we'll be here again all day, but there's one here where obviously there's someone kind of backing up Sandra, saying that she didn't lie. You've read snippets, transcripts put in the public domain entirely out of context, and only to try and make a point that Dr. Sandra Lean told us they were not available. Fact, Sandra has always told they were not available to the public. She was always told they were not available to the public and couldn't be shared publicly. Just kind of cut that off there and just say, well, she was always told that they weren't made public. Could she not use Google? She's a criminologist. I'm sure she can use Google. The post went on then. Ronnie had said, that's fine, I can prove many things. Please don't force my hand. I'm not against Sandra. I am for the truth. Because, well, like the saying goes,
I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
As I say, this conversation goes on and on. There's little bits I'll take. You might think it's out of context, but there's no real point in going through this. It's just a couple of things to really back up what I'm saying in terms of the will for ignorance, but we'll get to that. So one thing that stuck out as well, actually, I caught that Freddie had said calling someone a liar is bullying, which I find is a strange statement. Calling someone a liar is bullying. So then we admit then that the behaviour of Scott Forbes and Sandra Lean and whatnot, calling the police and the courts and witnesses and everything else, they're calling them liars. So are they bullying them then, Freddie? Yeah, so we'll just, anything that comes from an opposite side is just bullying because you're calling them a liar. So I'm a bully, really. Well, I'm a troll, apparently. I'd love to go into the meanings of that, but I don't think they understand the meaning of most words, including circumstantial evidence, which is a bit of a problem when you're talking about a court case. So Ronnie had said that he believed that Luke Mitchell was not guilty, but he also believed that he wasn't being told everything from Sandra. He had kind of listed a big bunch of things, really, to be honest, in terms of what Sandra hadn't said. I'll show you that one. It was take back the word liar and replace it with misinformation, which is a bit of a backstep and a cop-out there, Ronnie. Don't have me giving dates on a number of telephone contacts between two and said people. Don't have me giving dates on when Sandra was active in Luke's case. Don't have me giving dates on the companies that Sandra has started and wrapped up. Have you watched my videos, Ronnie? Don't have me asking for the full details of sales regarding Luke Mitchell products and the distribution of funds from other have you been watching my videos, Ronnie? As I said, I'm not against Sandra Lean, and I believe that Luke Mitchell is innocent. Please don't be offended by me asking questions on the campaign to free Luke Mitchell. You covered everything there, Ronnie. How can you see all that and then not see that that's just not to be believed in the first place? It's baffling, absolutely baffling. Anyway, as I say, there was another couple of comments here of Nicola Brennan. I'm sorry, but Sandra has been more open than she has to be. We, as the general public, do not have an automatic right to be told everything. I cannot and would not speak on Luke's behalf, but I'm pretty certain he would not be pleased for the women who had dedicated 20 years to help him fight it. I'm going to stop that there, that's a bunch of shit. That last bit's just bump. But yeah, you don't have an automatic right to be told everything. The whole point behind this is the fact that she's lied about transcripts being available, and then she lied about what's been in them, and you say you've got no automatic right to be told everything. You should be told the truth at least. Nicola, come on. How blind do you have to be? This is... Sorry. So, Freddie actually said, don't bother, he's running off to the cult. Now, this is something I wanted to cover. The split in Luke's army, it's kind of been a bit Lord of the Flies-esque without the pig heads and people getting squashed by rocks. But, well, that I'm aware of, I don't think anybody's been squashed by a rock. The last pig head I heard of with David Cameron. Let's not go into that. So they actually penned a lot of it. is what they called Sharontology. Sharon was one of the admins, I believe, that left the groups, the Luke Mitchell groups. So they've all turned on him because, like I say, civilized people. So they've now coined this because they didn't like the fact they were called a cult. They were called a cult, and they've now turned it round on people to call them a cult because apparently it's everyone else that's brainwashed. It's amazing. But Heather went on to say, sorry, that she agreed. She put in snippets out to discredit people who have given decades of their lives. I thought we're all in unison with how to get an innocent man freed and justice for Jodie. I stand strong with Dr. Lean. So yeah, there's this, just it is a willful ignorance to just stand strong with Dr. Lean and Scott Forbes, protect them at all costs. They're sorry that the abuse they get, when reality is if they need to look. What is it, that old phrase? I believe that was coined by the more important people than me.
Read the transcript.
Read the transcript. It's all about the transcript.
Read the transcript. Right.
Have you read the transcript?
I have not.
Lastly though, in this little post there was one comment that stuck out. It was actually really towards the start of it, but I wanted to leave it till last to move on to the next part, and that was from Heather. I've never read the transcripts, Ronnie. I stand solidly with Dr. Lean. I feel sick to the stomach with some of the abuse Scott Forbes and Dr. Lean get. I'm not trying to be a suck arse. Genuinely how I feel. I know how it looks innocent. The rest, for me, pales into significance. Now, there it is. Say that part out loud. Say the quiet part out loud. I have no intentions of researching any of the claims that I have took on board and will repeat to other people even when it's there. They have the ability, they have verbatim transcripts from a court case, it's right there. They can compare it with what they've been told in Innocence Betrayed and everything else, and on lives and in person, and they choose not to. So it's willful ignorance, really, isn't it? And what excuse do you have? You can't say you're researching something at the same time you're willfully ignoring evidence that's there that contradicts what you're being told by a grifter. Again, a carny, the evangelist, coming at you with false promises, asking for money, and even in the face of being shown that you've been told lies, you just say, I will not read the transcripts. For obvious reasons. You're too far in and you're involved. And that's kind of where we move on from here. Heather's involvement with this goes a little bit further. She is one of the worst in terms of the bullying, in terms of harassment, and more recently has made a series of gaffes, which people might think I'm being hyperbolic, but really do put innocent people in danger by sharing photos. Photos which, in all honesty, I was able to prove were not the person that they claimed to be within a couple of minutes, using Google, social media and things like that, and actually find out where the photos came from, find the actual source. So the first example, which I'll put up, now it was a gentleman who was pictured in a bowling tournament, which they decided to be Craig Doby. Now this gentleman wasn't Craig Doby, totally unrelated. He had played a Craig Doby in the final of the bowling tournament. Was it the same Craig Doby that was involved in the police case? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it wasn't him. And Heather and her friends have been sharing these photos of this gentleman, accused him of all sorts for months. That gentleman's life has been, at somewhat, you have to say, at risk, because anyone could see him on the street and decide that he is Craig Doby, and he's not. That is absolutely ridiculous. There was a half apology for that, but then we find out like a couple of, I think it was a day after it, or maybe even on the same post, someone highlighted another case, so I looked into that. The picture used for Alan Ovens, who was Judith Jones' partner, was in fact that of a deceased baker called Joseph Wahlberg. The post itself was actually shared by a family member, and it was actually come with a message of, you know, loss and grievance. I believe a granddaughter it was. Again, it wasn't like it was easily confused. I know exactly where it was from, and it made it plain on the post what the photo was being put up for. Both these photos were shared by Heather, used in a series of what I call homemade memes. However, they were given to her by Scott Forbes. Scott Forbes passed over the photos, which were incorrect, putting two innocent people's life in danger, so he could have entertainment online and look like he knows what he's talking about, when in reality he's lying. Again, there's another lie. Not only the transcripts, but the photos were lies. And what do we get? I hold my hands up, I made a mistake. It's more than that. You're not willing to look and confirm if you're making a mistake in the first place. And that's why, at the end of the day, you're as bad as Sandra Lynn, you're as bad as Scott Forbes, you are a carny as well. So, there we go. At the end of the day, there's no remorse. She's still doing exactly the same thing, still making wild claims. She has no idea what she's talking about in terms of science, facts, or anything else, and she's not willing to look. Says it herself. I am not willing to read the transcripts. Read the transcripts. Read the transcripts. We'll find out exactly what's went wrong, and all this stuff that's been spread should just stop. At the end of the day, if there was some form of bullying, it's definitely coming from that side. It's definitely people like Heather. Heather shares photos of the family, photos of people who aren't family and claims they are, and there's no recourse. There's no recourse. It's everyone else is a troll, apparently. Hate to break it to you, but it's you that's the troll, Heather. Absolutely, you are a hideous troll. And I think, well, you'll probably listen to this, think it's funny, maybe clip it, maybe a wee screenshot, get a wee bit notoriety at the end of the day. But really, it's just, yeah, lowest. But what can you do? These people will keep going, because she is Sandra's mate in a sense, and she's getting a lot of this information directly from Scott Forbes. Now, again, if she's kind of like a buffer, so Scott Forbes can give her these wrong photos, and then that's the testing ground. Everyone can share whatever. Scott Forbes doesn't have to answer their lies. Why did he share the wrong photos? He had to go onto someone's Facebook and look at a post which, as I say, easily explained why it was there and who it was for, and he had to intentionally lie about that. The reason that he did is the person's daughter, Joseph's daughter, I believe, married someone with the second name Ovens. So then Mr. Forbes must have thought, Ovens, there's a guy, his name must be Ovens, because he's not a lawyer, and he's not a detective. He's not even a rent-a-cop. He's not even a security guard. He's an idiot. An actual phone full of blood, forensically over a wall. The guy's an absolute idiot. Anyway, let's move on from that. Do a little wrap-up here, I think. And that'll be us. A nice new look, a nice fresh new look. Hope you like it. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this and any other videos again that you've watched or listened to, sorry. What do you guys think of the big birthday bash getting cancelled? Actually, one thing I would like to say about that just before we do finish the wrap up. Obviously, Sandra Lynn, and whilst I was talking earlier, had said that it wasn't about the case itself, it was fundraising. However, well, what did Sandra say?
I made it absolutely clear that I would have no part in anything to do with any money. I couldn't have made that any clearer, and I did not. Nowhere at any point did I say that the fundraising was for Luke Mitchell, and you all know why. Because it's not, and it never was.
And what else did Sandra say later in that same stream?
This latest tactic gives lie to their claimed motivations. In what possible way can blocking fundraising to get to the truth be supporting justice? For anyone, taken to its literal conclusion, they've robbed Jodie and her family of an opportunity for closure. Again, nice work, whoever you are.
Can someone tell me in what possible universe both those things can be true? At the end of the day, if the fundraising isn't for Luke Mitchell, then how is any attempt to stop said fundraising affecting Jodie Jones' family's closure? Again, it's that whole thing, if you listen long enough, the contradiction comes. I do think that people are ignorant to it, willfully ignorant, but then we look at people like Heather, who are, again, willfully ignorant, but at the same time goes a step further and does the very same thing herself. And we see it in the messages that she puts up within that post, discrediting the transcripts themselves and saying that the person that's putting them up is only putting up snippets, which is untrue. At the end of the day, I'm looking at questioning from both the prosecution and the defence. So to say that they're putting up snippets is unfair. Now, I appreciate there's only certain things that are up online now, but you don't expect everything to go up at once. I mean, Killin Mitchell's first day testimony was 150 pages on its own, which you would know if you read it, but you've no intention of doing it. But at the same time, you know that bits are being put up just to discredit people. Again, those things can't exist. It's back to that Schrodinger thing, really, isn't it? And it's the same, really, when we look at the things that we've pointed out here with Scott Forbes today. The idea that, he is looking to give out information and he's got the scoop, so to speak, in terms of what really happened, when in reality he's just punting pictures across, which aren't the people that he says they are, just so he can get involved, which I think is really what he is. He's a hanger-on, and I think he always has been since he brought up Mark Cain. I will be doing a video about Mark Cain. I did have one banked and recorded, but at the end of the day I think there's a lot more happened and a lot more that's pertinent to that video itself, so I think that kind of got dated before I had a chance to put it up. So we'll do a video on Mark Cain, but the video's coming up more, well, should we say, in the next little while. I'm going to focus a little bit more on some of the things that I've discovered by getting to read the transcripts online, and how they differ from, as I say, the Keeping the Record Straight video from Sandra Lean. That's going to be interesting. I'm sure people are going to enjoy that one. Got to give it a bit Inception levels, isn't it? Replying to reply of my... But either way, somewhat vindicated in terms of what I'm reading now, because things that I'd looked into, people that I'd spoke to, the research I'd done, it does seem that everything is so far, touch wood, along the lines of what I was saying to begin with. So same when it comes to the knife that we've done a video on and everything else. That I am going to go back over that with the court transcripts, obviously pointing out that the replacement knife was handed in the night before the trial started, and of course we have Scott Forbes on 5-0 saying that it was in the possession of the police all that time, which we now know is a provable lie, and Killin Mitchell actually makes Scott Forbes out to be a liar by admitting that on the stand. So going forward, as I say, we'll have a look at some of that. What do you think of these things here? As I say, taking a step back from it all, I think Luke Mitchell's army do have a very strange way of looking at things. Even Nikki Brennan, obviously, in her comment, saying about she didn't think Luke Mitchell would be happy that Sandra was being questioned, whilst questioning the family of a murdered 14-year-old girl about what they know, and just no questions asked. It's actually, again, it's the willfully ignorant, but it gets to a point where they're just malicious, which is definitely the case with Heather. So, thank you for listening to this video and any others. Keep an eye out for some more. As I say, the next couple will be looking more into finer detail. I just wanted to catch up with some of the things that I've noticed, and I think this is more relevant in terms of what we look at in the whole innocence movement for Luke Mitchell. What we really have to remember is a couple of things. The advocates of Luke Mitchell, especially Sandra Leans, but she was given full autonomy to tell everyone everything, I believe, was what was said. So at the end of the day, being given permission to lie by Luke Mitchell, the person who was convicted of a murder after his alibi was shot to bits by his own brother. That's something that I'm going to cover in the Bob Ruff as well. Bob Ruff didn't know what sex Shane was, even though it's reported on in papers that he gave evidence. It was a bit strange. The Bob Ruff thing I will cover as well. A lot of that to do with the transcripts in the next couple of videos, so keep an eye out for that. Again, as I say, with that one though, it's the whole idea, very much like Monty Python, and the Monty Python movies, the person that was in every single one was God. And in this case, the army's God, Luke, is across everything. He is essentially, he has his enablers in terms of Sandra, Scott and everyone else willing to spread what is more lies on top of more lies, and then try and cover their lies with other lies. But we can see, if we actually look, and if you're willing to look, not willing to ignore, that these things are starting to fall apart, aren't they? And even Sandra's own followers are starting to be the ones that tear down the walls. Enjoyable to watch from the outside, can't lie about that. This is a bit of a strange experience watching these guys do it, but I'm here to watch both. But at the end of the day, I believe that a lot of the guys that have split from Sandra still believe that Luke's innocent. You're not really cotton on to the fact that these lies came from Luke, not just Sandra's head. It's not, at the end of the day, that she was given full autonomy by this person. So this is all in his name, and he's quite happy for everyone to be told lies to make him look innocent. Provable lies. At the end of the day, it's just provable. So what do you guys think? The big birthday bash, was that cancelled by mutual agreement? Or do you think, like me, it's kind of like when your mate gets dumped and you're just waiting for him to admit that it wasn't mutual and he got dumped before you get him that drink to drown his sorrows? And you can hear about how she broke his heart. But as I say, jokes aside, what do you think? I don't think that was a mutual thing, but I might be probing wrong. At the end of the day, I didn't get any word back from the Salters Inn. I'd still like to hear from them, but I don't see that happening. At the end of the day, 2 emails down and no reply. So with that in mind as well, what do you have you or are you aware of behaviours of other innocence movements like this online, in terms of the vitriol and the vile behaviour, the projection in terms of thinking that everyone's a troll and the media is out to get them and the police is out to get them, when really they're just making up lies and shouting abuse at people, trying to turn the world against innocent people that aren't involved, guys that have no connection whatsoever but willing to share their pictures. And what does it say about the detective lawyer Scott Forbes when he does not look into, well, I'd go as far as to say he meant, well, let's put it this way. Actually, I always give everyone I do give everyone an out, so let's give Scott Forbes the out. This is the out we always give everyone, remember? So you've got one of two options, Mr. Forbes. Either you don't know what you're talking about, you're absolutely clueless, and you're just shouting into the wind, or you're intentionally lying. Pick one. Scott Forbes has got a good thing going on now where he's saying that the trial transcripts are null and void because he knows so much more about what actually happened. What you have to do is prove that you knew what happened in the first place and what was said in the first place before you then go on to make other claims. Like the idea that the statements were changed by the search trio when on the stand we see that was never the case and they agreed with their original statements, Mr. Forbes. So there was no change of the statements, they agreed with their original ones. Biggest lie going. You can't say that the trial is null and void when you can't even get simple things like that right. That was a blatant lie. Again, we'll cover all these in videos coming up. I do want to concentrate on Shane Green's testimony, as I say, but at the end of the day we'll have to get to it all, and I will make a point of getting to it all to show these two charlatans, that's for want of a better word, up as what they are. And what are they, guys? Carnies, looking for marks. Don't be a mark. Don't be a mark. Well, there's something else you shouldn't be, isn't there? And with that in mind, let's wrap this whole thing up. As I say, we're doing some things coming up on transcripts, so if that's got you interested and you want to actually keep up on this, go back and watch what we've done so far. You'll be able to catch up, but I'm sure I will recap some of the things that I've already went over here that I have to kind of prove a second time, in a sense. I'm Michael Finnegan now. Anyway, as I say, if that's something that interests you, subscribe, notification bell, leave that sarcastic thumbs up, put a comment down below, but don't be a dick, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.